What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability, get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Are you not entertained? Yes. Oh, today on the program, Debesh Suvat. Who's Debesh Suvat? What? You're going to find out in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows on Thursday, I'm back at the Old Post Barbecue in Russellville, Arkansas. Video dance party, karaoke jam. And yes, it's family friendly. So bring everybody from 6 to 9 at the Old Post Barbecue. Family time is back at the Old Post Barbecue. Man, it's been a long year. It has been a long year. And I finally got back there just last week. And, the people are ready to play. I'm so excited. Every Thursday night at the Old Post Barbecue in Russellville, Arkansas from 6 to 9. Great food, great people. Enjoy yourself. I keep it family friendly on the music, but you know, they got frosty beverages for the adults. Drink responsibly. All right, then on Friday night, I'll be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Now, that one is an adults-only show. That one is 21 and up. From 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. Video dance party, karaoke jam, full bar, kitchens open, pool tables. They got a pool tournament on Friday night. So if you want to try to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to check out the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Come on, visit. 2 public shows, Thursday and Friday night. This week, I'm excited. And it's every week, really. Thursday and Friday, that's usually where you're going to find me. The Old Post Barbecue on Thursday night, and then the Rab on Friday nights. So, yeah, be there. And then Saturday nights, I usually save for weddings. So I'm excited. Weddings are coming back. I get to entertain the people on Saturdays at their weddings, their best days. Some people, that's the best days of their lives, or one of the best days of their lives, and I get to be a part of their family celebration. I appreciate that so much. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Debesh Suvat. I'm going to find out a little bit more. All right, I got him on Skype, so if you are listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version. That's youtube.com/user/KeysDAN, and you'll find all my podcasts there. I started doing the video versions and posting them there on my YouTube. But let's get into it with Debesh Suvat. Skyping Debesh Suvat now.
Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Hey, there you are. Debesh Suvat. I hope I said that properly.
Debesh Suvat, yeah.
Debesh Suvat. Perfect. That's why you start. You get the name proper. You know, you make sure that you can introduce yourself properly. And I think we've made introductions. KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, the What Makes You Famous podcast. Good to see you. My goodness, your background is amazing. For those that are listening to the audio version of this podcast, I encourage you to check out the video version. He has chosen a background that is out of this world. Why the eye for the background?
I'm using my laptop at the moment, and a little bit cutting in and out here.
Okay.
So sorry, could you repeat your question?
No, why have the eye as the background? It's like and it's not a normal eye. It's a really stylized eye. Why have that as your background, Debesh Suvat?
Well, that's the album cover for the album called Alright. Various reasons, but yeah, it's a matter of seeing mystically.
Yeah, do people even make album covers anymore? Well, people sell singles now on the streaming. It's always one by one. You took the time to make an album cover. Did you design that yourself, or did you have somebody do that for you?
do this myself. It's actually a public domain image. I kind of skirt around things that way.
Very good.
But put out for the song called Oak. I had some friends from the U.S.
Well, let me tell you,
Techno.
you're cutting in and out as well.
She helped me put that video together.
You're cutting in and out as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call you on the phone. Okay. Leave the video up. We'll keep the sound down on the video, and we'll get this thing rolling. Let me call you on the phone, and then we'll get a little bit better sound, I think.
Which headset?
Technology, my friend, technology. My goodness. And you have a look that you've cultivated as well. I mean, it matches the sound. I only have the one song, and I have listened to it over and over, and I'm kind of like, man, there's a lot of sounds out there. There's a lot. How did you put all that together? Let's start with the look. What is the look? It's kind of a monk. Okay, I'm a Star Wars fan. Obi-Wan Kenobi, maybe. Jedi, possibly.
The way I would put it is, I am Debesh Suvat. I am the ghost of Edmonton. I'm a strange creature that's wandered with a hood that is often found singing from cliffs and in the woods and in the alleys, trying to encourage people to devour their paradigms.
Wow, blowing my mind, man. Okay, is this something that you've always thought? All right, I'm guessing is there a religious connotation to this, or is it something that you feel? Are you in tune with something? Teach me a little bit about Debesh Suvat.
I don't think religion would be the right word to use, but there's certain sacraments, fungal sacraments, or various other methods that help bring us in tune to the intervals. Pay attention to the intervals, the spaces between things,
Man, now the phone is cutting out. Are we having a terrible connection? I guess you're out in outer space somewhere, in an undisclosed location. But maybe it's on my end. I chose the phone. I got the Skype. One of these technologies is going to work for us today, because I really want to know, man, what the man behind the music, the ghost behind the music. I want to know about you, man. How did you become Debesh Suvat? Because that hasn't always been. You were someone else, and I won't disclose that name unless you want to. But when did you become Debesh Suvat?
Ironically, it came from working at a convenience store. But life happens in strange ways.
How long ago was that?
Let's see, that would have been 14 years ago now.
14 years you've been Debesh Suvat. And how is it cultivated? How did it, were you always making music in your previous life? Or when you became Debesh Suvat, you changed the style that you make your music in?
No, I've made music since I was just, still in diapers, basically. Like, I would be playing on my grandparents' organ and or fiddling around with my grandfather's acoustic guitar before I could speak. And apparently I would tell them that they were story songs. Everyone was a story song. So I don't know exactly what that meant, but so I guess in a way, yeah, obviously I've progressed and changed in what I make. But it's hard not to after that many years.
Well, is this something that your grandparents cultivated? Did they encourage you to play music on their organ, or did they tell you, "Stop touching that? That's old. That's not for you"? Or did they encourage you?
There was a tender mix of both. I think they were highly amused and saw that there was something to it, but it was a very rickety old plastic thing from the 70s that I think they got from the basement of a church. So they were a little concerned as well, for sure. Yeah.
Well, all right. I mean, you're giving people gems. Moms and dads, encourage your kids. If you have a a piano that they shouldn't touch, maybe you should get them something that they should touch. Did anybody ever buy you a musical instrument of your own, or were you relegated to stealing the instruments of others? When did you get your first instrument?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. For a while, I would borrow my sister's acoustic. She got very frustrated with that. But the first time that I actually got an instrument that was really my own, it was a rental. It was an alto saxophone for school. That was a lot of fun. But the first one that I ever actually owned that was my very own was a 4-string Raven bass that was handmade in Japan in the 70s. And that was pretty cool. But that got stolen by one of my drummers.
That does sound pretty cool, Debesh Suvat. Now, tell me about the saxophone. It sounds like you've had some training in music. You're not a guy that just goes out there and bangs on keys. Were you a band geek, as it were?
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, like I did music, like just sort of the generic stuff in school. But I bounced around on various different instruments. More so, I would say, like I kind of rejected most of the classical training that I received, and there's parts of it that are useful, but they don't teach it the right way. I don't think. I think mushrooms teach it much better.
So, what do you think you got? I mean, what do you think you got in those lessons, and where do you think you got the more inspiration for putting your music out there? And it doesn't all have to be about music in this podcast. I really just want to talk to you, the person behind the music, and then find out how you developed your sound, because it's a wild sound. And yes, at the end of this podcast, I will play your song, and I want people to stick around till the end to make sure that they listen to that, and then find out where to get it for sure, and download it and buy it and get CDs and whatever whatever medium you have to get that one song, and then any other songs, because I know that you must be putting other stuff out there, as all I have is the one right now.
Yeah, I'm fairly prolific. I can't remember exactly how many. There's over 20 albums on Spotify right now that are available. So
you say albums.
It's a fairly expensive list.
Yeah, you say albums, and I looked up, Debesh Suvat, and yeah, I found your Amazon and your Twitter. You have 2 different Twitter feeds. I'm going to guess that the one that's active is the one that I'll share. And then I found your Instagram, but your SoundCloud. Yeah, you're right. It's full. It's full. You got track after track after track. What is it? 46 tracks on the SoundCloud itself. And it still blows my mind. Because these kids today, they're not putting out albums, but what is an album to you? Do you compile a certain amount of songs, put them together, and then, develop some artwork for it, maybe some liner notes? Because that's what I enjoyed growing up as a baby DJ. I would get the album in my hand, and before I played the song on the radio, I might read some of the liner notes. Hey, this song by Debesh Suvat was written when he was this, and give a little story before I put it out on the radio. And that's what I always enjoyed on the radio, was getting a little behind the music. And that's what we're getting right now. So tell the people, what is an album to you?
Well, an album, I think it's a collection of thoughts and vibrations. And it's not necessarily a matter of whether they're cohesive, as whether or not there's a reason for them to be together. It's I don't know. So, some albums are considerably trickier and different than other ones. For example, I've got one album called SMPL. It took 2.5 years to do. And it's just very precise little selections and snippets of all sampled material from a vast array of thousands and thousands of sources. They're just carefully hand selected and hand picked out of audio files. So it's a 4-disc concept album. But then compare that to the work that I was doing in 2019, and there was about 21 albums that I did in that year. So it varies drastically,
Well, do you think that albums put together by theme are better than the ones that are jumbled, maybe a collection of various thoughts, because I guess when you're writing in your journal or in your diary, you write whatever happened that day, and that could be likened to a song. But some people do develop, and some bands, some of the greatest albums were conceptual albums that were themed. I'm thinking of Pink Floyd's The Wall, probably one of the greatest albums of all time, and that what a theme all the way through. And even Dark Side of the Moon, another great by the same band. I don't know why I'm singling out Pink Floyd, my best friend's favorite band, but those are two that I remember that from start to finish. In fact, I think Dark Side of the Moon, you could put it together with The Wizard of Oz, famously.
Yes, I've done that, yeah.
Have you done that?
It's fun. Yeah.
See, I wonder I guess you must be considerably younger than me. I'm 52. If you care to disclose your age, you can. That's fine. And that'll give us an
31.
idea. 31. That gives me an idea of how we are generationally. And I wondered if people were still doing that. I know when I was growing up, I heard about it. My cousin Timmy, who's also a musician, he was into video editing, and he actually edited. As soon as the third lion roar, you start the album, and bam, they line up. Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, that's something that you've done.
My uncle is a bit of a peculiar fellow, and he sent me some obscure things, and that was included in them. So.
I think that when it's put together, I think you could probably find it on YouTube. It's called Dark Side of the Rainbow, I think is how it gets titled.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Well, cool, man. I mean, see, I wondered how conceptually what do you think? Is it better to have an album that has a theme to it or one that's kind of thrown together?
Well, I think it's kind of important also to allow for the possibility of extracting the theme from the album once it's complete, once you've already had a chance to take it in its entirety. But there are a couple albums that I've done that are like specific conceptual albums, like Carnival Suvat, that's a specific concept album. SMPL is a specific concept album. Lately, the concept behind the music that I'm doing is much more oriented towards chaos magic. And that tends to, I don't know, I find that a lot of fun. I like a mix of physics and chaos magic.
Okay. Yeah, I would say it's chaotic. It's pretty chaotic. But do you practice magic at all? Do you practice any dabble in the arts? A little sleight of hand or anything that you could do at parties, or is it something different?
Yeah, not so much the parlor trick style, but sort of more so interdimensional energy exchange.
It's wicked cool, man. I know that you've developed a concept, a persona, and you're kind of giving it to me right now. But is this how you are all the time, or is this do you present yourself this way to folks, and how do they do they get you? Do your parents get you? Do your family, your closest friends, do they get you?
Let's say to varying levels. I'm very fortunate that there is at least one person in my life who gets me very deeply. And,
okay.
I'm blessed to live with her.
So you have a significant other. Hey, it's always good to have love, and you find that one. That's all you need. That really is. You're what is it that they told me when I was a kid? You're Adam's rib. You're better half as I got older. But yeah, it's good that you have that, and I appreciate that you have found that one. But yeah, and I'm a guy who's into nerdy stuff and Comic-Cons, and I've met people of all walks of life, and boys that want to be girls and girls that want to be boys, and magic of all in all spectrums. I think one of my favorites. I was working at a hospital in the middle of the night, and I know if she listens to this, she's going to know who she is. And she was a Wiccan, but she would explain to me how witchcraft actually worked, and how the earth and how we were all one, and just people go, oh, witches, oh, and all they know is, once again, the Over the Rainbow, the Wizard of Oz, those witches, those are the ones you grow up with or bewitched. But are you practicing witchcraft at all, or is it something different? I'm trying to dig in. Who is Debesh Suvat, or is it something that's not going to be nailed down in this one podcast?
Well, to put it very simply, all the universe is spellcraft. Whether we recognize that or not, whether we choose to live our lives cognizant of that or not, is entirely apart from whether or not that is the fact. So if I had to try and put it in a way that would make sense, and it's difficult to make things like this make sense, I'll read a little bit of a poem.
Okay.
It's that. Electric woo-woo and voodoo of moo and pi enter my theta state of mega mind, and I find within dance and song of shapes and relations of interstices. I'll form my own archetype. My feet are boats, concrescents of currents. I am wave and nautilus nativus. Aphrodisial learned teacher and student. Ardent fusion of polymath polyglot. Got some scholarly trends and bent of shamanic tomfoolery. To know your place and see beyond it, while knowing there is no beyond it. It's a tricky dance. Interconnectivity has always been the guide of both hunter and prey, garden and gardener. We delude ourselves, thinking only humans are aware of their mortality, just because everyone else doesn't freak out like we do. Animality knows mortality more intimately than all sages and martyrs. It just doesn't bother them. They know better.
That is some far out. That is some far out philosophical stuff, and I like it. That's how you expand minds, and you make people think possibly a little differently than they normally would think. You don't want to be okay. A lot of people get, including myself, I get shoved in a line, and sometimes I want to get out of that line. I want to find another path, another way. My wife gets upset at me because sometimes I'll wander off. And she'll say, I couldn't find you for a while. Well, I went on walkabout. I went and explored. I went off into the woods over there. And, but I was trying to call you. Well, I didn't have my phone with me. Sometimes you just want to branch off and call it meditation, call it whatever. But you're trying to find, and I'll take my shoes off and I'll put my feet on the ground. These are things that people may not know, but I'll put my feet on the ground because I want to have that energy transfer from the earth. Whether I believe wholeheartedly in it or not, it might be there. It can't hurt. People have tried to label me as agnostic because I don't know if there's a God. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I'm just searching. And I wonder, what your path is. 14 years ago, working in a convenience store, you said, no, let me do a different thing. What was the path out of that convenience store?
Well, it was a long and jagged path that did a whole bunch of swirling about. It involved the cult, the mental hospital, all sorts of strange things. Time isn't linear, and neither should our intentions or path or interactions be. What is there to be learned from heat as a distortion of light, manifesting as waves of shadow? Tonal and temporal intervals play a similar mathematical game as chess, and I suspect colors apply to this as well. We give to each other, and you can't understand an equation if you don't know its elements. With the magpie's lessons, I have learned of shiny things. Moment and locus are inextricably tied as the dance of unfolding expansive possibilities, desiring ever-increasing complexity until a penultimate nexus of interconnectivity. That's what focus is for, furthering the penultimate unification. I can tickle interrelations forth from nature via the mathematics of music. Not that they were not there, but aspects can be highlighted, focused. This in turn has a reflective effect upon, or rather with, will or manifestation, interdimensional and interdisciplinary intervals and travels. These are all one thing. That's when you look at what's going on with physics and the more wild aspects of it. Basically, everything that has come from the mystic traditions is being reaffirmed in a broader sense. That it is all resonance. And when you know that it's all resonance and you understand that you can interact with and interfere with that resonance, that creates a different conscious ethic.
So are
that's ultimately what
these poems, are these things that you've written, or are these inspired by a certain sect of people, from the ancient past, or, maybe druids, or, maybe, who is it that inspired you in the ancient past? And have you studied any of the words or the teachings of people, of ancient cultures?
Well, I think ultimately all insights are, in one way or another, on the shoulders of giants. But then you also run a dangerous risk of taking oneself too seriously or falling into the delusions of ancestor worship. So I take insights just as deeply from the bark of a tree as I do from a great hallowed philosopher of old, or an entire religious tradition.
I like that. It's funny that I mentioned my cousin Timmy. He similarly has thoughts that well, I can only speak for myself. I find that they're out there, but I enjoy listening to them. And it's a different way of thinking, and it's something that I have some trouble grasping. But maybe it's not for me to grasp. Maybe only a certain type of person can really hold on to this. But I can appreciate it, listening to the one song that I have of yours. And I know there's a lot more out there on your SoundCloud, and I probably could have listened to a few more of those. But I don't like to do a lot of research when I'm going to talk to someone. Think of this as maybe a first date or an interview for a job, possibly, but maybe not something not something so important, I suppose. But just a conversation about you.
But it is important.
It is. Everything is important. This is an interaction this is primarily a learning podcast, and I want to learn about you, how you became Debesh Suvat, and what a Debesh Suvat does. And I know I've already asked that, and you've been into it a little bit. But when my purpose. Yes, you mentioned that you mentioned that you got when you got out of the convenience store, you were in and out of medical facilities, let's say, and that's something my cousin Timmy shares with you, and he lives better through chemistry. When chemicals are in balance, he feels like he gets with society a little bit better. Is this an experience that you've had as well?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I don't think that the majority of the diagnosis was correct, and I really needed to change my life situation, not necessarily my dose of this, that, or the other. But I've come to realize that my purpose is to amuse and be amused by the universe. And that's a very simple thing to do, and doesn't really demand very much. So it's kind of hard to begrudge life, knowing that that's where I am.
Well, I know that when children go to school, they're full of curiosity, and it seems like sometimes a teacher's job is to beat that curiosity out of that child and form them into a person that will be an upstanding member of society. And sometimes you don't beat that out of the child. It's better to leave that child inquisitive and curious. And this way, maybe they'll teach you a little bit, dear teacher. And I know that there's a lot of teachers that listen to this podcast as well. And I want, it's hard to find that balance to teach the child how to be a member of society without beating the creativity out of them. And I think that you may have found a balance. Sometimes they'll do it medically, where they'll give you a pill, but that might affect your creativity. Do you think that affected your music at all? If and when they gave you a pill?
At some point, yeah, I felt very much dulled and kind of stultified and zombified. But there was a lot of my thinking that had to do with that as well at the time. Derek Jensen has a really great bit where he talks about how the Department of Education, it's a complete misnomer, and how it should be called the Department of Inculcation, coming from the root inculcare, meaning to stamp in with the heel. Whereas education comes from the root educare, meaning it was originally like an old Greek midwifing term, meaning to draw forth or to be present at the birth of. And that's really what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a drawing forth of the best parts of the child by the teacher, and it very seldom is that. But I was fortunate that I've had a few good teachers in my years. But I think ultimately suffering is the greatest professor.
I suspect you might be right. I just caught that movie again. I rewatched Accepted, and I know the movie's a comedy. It's out on Netflix now, and it came up on my feed. So I said, let me rewatch that thing. And the way that these kids, they can't get into college, so they make up their own school. And the school's idea, it starts to develop to where the children, the students become the teachers, and they teach themselves whatever they want to learn. And I think the concept, I would love to go to a college like that, to where you write something on the board. I want to learn about skateboarding. I want to learn about rock and roll. I want to learn about shoelaces, whatever, and that's your class. I want to learn how to meditate. That's your class, and that's what you study. Is it worth $10,000 a year? Well, that's for you to decide, but certainly that is a school. And I think there's one in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, New College near where the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus used to be. And that's there's no grades. It's all pass fail. You go, you study what you want, you decide what you like. I mean, have you done any schooling that way, or was it is it School of Life?
Yeah, well, it's School of Life ultimately. Like the world is a classroom, but I'm also roughly familiar with Rudolf Steiner and the sort of Waldorf school philosophy as well. And I strongly agree with it. I think it's very important to not just have an educational reform, but to rethink why we think people need education in the first place. What purpose is there behind the teaching, and what is the best way to draw forth the best in somebody? And Rudolf Steiner and the Waldorf School are kind of hitting towards that. And that's something I was considering for my own child as well. I think it's something to look into for sure. But yes, ultimately, never stop learning and never stop regarding yourself as a student.
Yeah, I joke with people when they ask me if I've gone to college. Yeah, I've been to college a bunch of times. What I enjoyed the most about a structured college or a structured class was finding that thing that I wanted to study and maybe take that course. So more of a vocation. I wanted to study radio. I went to radio school. I wanted to study firefighting. I went to firefighting school. Went to EMT school. My first bowed out, I was thinking, well, maybe I want to study medicine. Maybe I want to study psychology. That was just way too structured. So the little 2-month courses, 3-month courses, 2-year, something with a goal very quickly at the end is where I feel that I get structured now. But I have a daughter that gets homeschooled, And I think that is the best thing, is her mother and her one-on-one. If you have the means, that is my suggestion. I wish I had that when I was younger. I was in public school, and this is what happened, But, hey, and some people fare very well in public school, and they go on to have great careers and become fine, upstanding citizens of society. But, sometimes you have to go your own way, and I could see that, Debesh Suvat. You've gone your own way. What kind of equipment do you use to make your music? Are you still playing that bass or that saxophone, or do you play any instruments, or is it all electronic?
I'm very minimalist at the moment. It's just entirely on the laptop for the time being. I do like type in the MIDI as well, but I've got a very minimal setup, and I kind of like it that way. It makes it easier to travel, for one thing.
Oh yeah.
But I love instruments, but I'm not really good at recording. I get too finicky when I start recording, and so like I'll play an acoustic, no problem. That's a great time. But if I hit the record button, then all of a sudden my confidence and my self-critical are in such conflict, and they'll stay that way for hours, and I just don't get a song done.
Well, that's why you get somebody else to hit that record button for you. It's nice to have a good engineer. Yeah. I know that I can record a demo for somebody using the equipment that I have. They can plug their guitar in, they can plug their whatever keyboard in and play, and I can record them just fine. But to have that discerning ear to know where the fader should be, where the level should be, I don't think I ever had that ear. I'm more of the talking to the microphone guy and get to know people guy. But, that's a
delicate tone.
Yeah, doing it all yourself, it sometimes is difficult. Do you have somebody that helps you to edit, or is it all Debesh Suvat?
It's basically me. I mean, there have been people who have helped me learn what I'm doing along the way. Kev Willow was a great person for helping me understand the particular DAW that I use, FL Studio. There's a few other really great tutorial channels on YouTube that really helped me out along the way as well. But yeah, ultimately, it's just like the engineering, mastering, mixing, composing, all of it. Had to learn how to do every bit of it.
I think when I was just a baby DJ, and I picked up a box of Fruity Loops from Guitar Center. And that's what has become FL Studio. But I remember the interface was...
I started back when it was Fruity Loops 3.
Yeah, I remember that the interface was, tabs that you would move around, and you would make your own little beats. Oh, I need a hi-hat over here. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Does it still work the same way with little tabs and little where you get your different instruments?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, there's become... some slightly more intuitive interfaces incorporated in there as well, but yeah, it's essentially the same thing. That's why I stick with it. It's just what I'm used to. It's the dialect of electronic music that I've learned.
So, Mac or PC?
Oh, good God, I cannot stand Mac. Anything Apple, just go to hell.
Same.
They're not user friendly. They don't have any sort of like backwards compatibility, anything like that. Just no.
No, I feel you. It's all, and I know that they've made a lot of money, and they've convinced people that art and music has to be made on a Mac, but not for me. I bought myself a gaming computer just because of the power of it. I got an MSI sitting here in front of me that we're chit chatting on, and the mixing board, the Rode Pod mixer, I guess, but. I say minimal as well. A little ring light over there to make my face look prettier. Nothing can help this face. Nothing. But, so tell me about the setup. You say you have a little MIDI keyboard that's like, 8 keys or something?
No. I type MIDI into the keyboard of the laptop itself.
Wow. Real minimal. Okay. Have you ever used one of those outside MIDI keyboards, or is that too much?
Yeah. I used to. I started a project briefly called Bedlam Beats with a friend of mine on the north side in the city, but I think he moved to Toronto again. But yeah, we had like Machine and some other things to play around with, and that was pretty fun. But yeah, I've just never been much of a gearhead. Poverty is part of that, but hey.
Well, I get it. I mean, for under $1,000, you can have a pretty decent recording studio in your own house. At least you can make a demo to give people an idea of what you can do, and then maybe a record company may or may not come to you and say, "Hey, I want to refine that," or a record producer might want to refine that a little bit, maybe help you mix and master. But maybe you know all those things because, I guess if you have the FL Studio, does it have mixed mastering on it, or do you have to take it into maybe Adobe Audition or something?
No, you can do everything in Suite if you know what you're doing, and it's a very powerful tool.
Fantastic! Hey, you're giving people gems. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that want to make music, that want to make sounds, that want to get the sounds that are out in their heads out to the world, and that you're telling me FL Studio might be an easy or a simple way to get it done. And have you been using it all the way for those 14 years? Because I know Fruity Loops has been around at least that long.
Yeah, I've been using it for even longer than that. Yeah.
Wow.
Probably about 16 years now. I've been using that.
And have you always been doing this, was it chaotic sound, or before that, when you were first starting, was it a different genre perhaps, to put it in a box?
It's always been experimental, for lack of a better word, but it's kind of gone up and down as far as, like the smooth versus the aggressive and rough. It fluctuates. But yeah, there's always been an experimental quality to it for sure.
And how have people responded to that? Because I see that you have hits. I mean, that's the only way that we can really judge ourselves is how, we put these things out into the world. Or I say I put nothing out into the world. I put podcasts into the world. You put this music.
Hey, that's something, man. That's something.
You put these sounds. Okay, yes, these are sounds as well. But you put these rhythmic sounds into the world. What's the response? What feeling have you gotten back from it? Or do you even care? You just, usually when I'm posting on social media, it's post and ghost. I don't even look.
Yeah, it's more so a post and ghost thing. Again, I believe very much so in the chaos magic of mathematics and music combined. So I would like for other people to hear it and listen to it. And of course, it would be very beneficial for people to, maybe buy an album or two. But ultimately, the point for me isn't necessarily that. It's about altering the resonance of the grand scheme of things in a particular way. And the few people that do wind up coming across my music, I know that they are going to have their paradigms challenged in at least some way. And therefore, my goal is going to be achieved.
Yeah, Debesh Suvat. I heard it recently, and I thought it was so cool. You're not selling out; you're buying in. Okay, you want to make a living doing what you love, and if you can, oh my goodness, that is the dream. That is the dream for all the people around the world to do what they love, and then make a living at it. Hello, that's a wonderful thing. But and I
used to play.
Yeah, have you? When you say you have records, do you have physical CDs or physical vinyl copies, or what's the medium that people can buy?
I did previously have some CDs many years ago. Those have all disappeared at the span of time. Right now, everything's on digital medium, so you can get your stuff, stream it if you want on Spotify, or you can Apple, whatever. There's tons of different platforms that I'm on. The easiest way to get to it is www.songwix.com/Debesh Suvat. That'll link up to a variety of different platforms, including my YouTube channel. But if you want more up-to-date stuff, and also if you're interested in reading poetry and various other little bits, you could also check out the patreon.com/Debesh.
Okay, I did find the Patreon and I did find the Apple. I didn't find that other. Okay, you're gonna have to send me those links, 'cause I want to put them in the show notes for sure, so people know exactly how to find you. The Twitter and the Instagram, I found that no problem at all. Putting in Debesh Suvat the way it's written right there on the video, and I'll definitely have it titled out there. But that was easy enough. You don't have a Facebook, I guess. Are you on Facebook?
No, I detest Facebook.
You're not alone. You're not alone. People have been simplifying their life. Oh, there you go. You typed it in for me. I appreciate that. Song whip. But no, you people are simplifying all the way down to just Instagram, because that is the easiest place to post and ghost. But these days, if you're your own independent artist, you have to be your social media. You have to be your poster maker. You said you found that eye online and used it as your album cover. I hope the guy who came up with that design doesn't come back at you and bite you. But and that can.
I'm careful, man. I'm careful. It's public domain.
Public
domain.
If
that person happens to see it, then please get in touch, because I'd like to say thank you.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so your lady friend, what does she think of all this, and does she help you on your journey musically or otherwise?
I could not have been blessed by a better muse in all the universe, and quite frankly, she's a temple that I'm thankful to worship at. There's so many secret little codified messages to her, of her, about her in the music that is going to be coming out this year. And I'm just fortunate, so deeply fortunate to be hers.
Well, she sounds very special, and that is your pursuit of happiness. Goal completed. That's wonderful. That's good. You have that journey. So tell me, okay, the progression of the music in your 20 plus albums out there. Has anything been more mainstream and then off to the chaotic and then back? You said that it kind of flowed a little bit. And where do you think that this latest offering falls into those categories?
What's coming up next and what would be considered the most recent stuff is probably among the weirder. Playing a lot with mathematics and interstices and time signatures and things like that. It creates a different atmosphere than what we normally hear in Western music, which is all about 4/4 on the floor, and it just gets so goddamn boring. Enough. We've all heard it.
Oh yeah, it gets repetitive. Some of the American music, if I can't find another line, I say it over again. If I can't find another line, I say it over again and again and again. Oh, do you do any vocals as well with your poetry? Do you put some of that poetry over the backdrop?
Very, very, very seldomly. There's a couple older songs that have some. In any of the Dune stuff, no, because it just wouldn't suit. A song changes drastically when vocals are added to it, and sometimes that's for the better, and sometimes that's for the worse. I found that for the most part, adding my vocals to my songs is not necessarily for the better. So that's why I try to offer the lyrics kind of as their own individual thing, not necessarily tied to the song, even if they might be part of it in its original creation.
Well,
that's why the Patreon is there.
Okay, I'm a very audio person, so the Patreon is where they can find you doing your spoken word, your poetry.
That and YouTube, yeah.
Very good. Well, see, I didn't find the YouTube either, so you're gonna have to send me that link as well. So fantastic.
But it's on the song list.
Very good. Very good. All right. Any other areas of exploration you want the people to know about, Debesh Suvat?
Well, I'll give a little bit of background to the song that we're going to play. It's called That She Never Saw Him Walk. It's a reference to my deceased first wife, who unfortunately passed away before she was able to see my son really achieve his first step. But it's also kind of an affirmation that she is still seeing that, and she is seeing me finally walk tall and proud, because I was sort of finding my feet when we first met. And yeah, it's just something to honor her, but also to honor everybody who's learning how to walk.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss for sure, and I know that this song is a way to keep her alive forever and ever, and that's something that you can do. That's a special gift that you have, is that you can remember people in song, and that's how they achieve immortality. That's how you achieve immortality as well, is putting this out to the world. I don't think YouTube and any of these social medias, they're going to be around for a while, long after we're gone, and all this work that you've done, all this that came out of your mind will live on forever. And maybe somebody 100 years from now will say, hey, are you into Debesh Suvat? Oh, man, I've been into him for years. Or let me check that out.
Special form of chaos magic, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, we've been listening to the classical music that you had to learn on your saxophone all those years ago. And they've been around for hundreds of years. My favorite song by Beethoven, 1824, Ode to Joy. That's
a great one.
That has stood the test of time, and that man was fully deaf when he wrote that song, when he put that song out there, when he was conducting that song. He was fully deaf. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's another thing that just goes to show that it's all about vibration, resonance, and mathematics.
Amazing. And that's that's a song that very rarely did they have vocals in music back then, and he decided to add vocals. And this is something that you are in the reverse of. You mostly make instrumentals. Where do you think these instrumentals would work best in someone's everyday life, or how do they work best for you in your everyday life? Say you're listening to one of your Debesh Suvat songs. Are you listening while you're walking, while you're in your car, while you're, where do you think that, commercially, where do you think they would fit?
Well, see, I'm constantly walking, and walking in the woods, I think, is the best way to listen. But I think that it would probably suit different people in different states, and it would depend very much upon their own constitution, and that's why I like to leave it up to the listener. I've been thinking about when I actually do release on physical CDs, I might include little icons beside each song of which states of altered consciousness might be suitable or might not. Sort of a user's guide.
Well, I can already tell my wife's not going to like you when I have you loaded up on my phone in my headphones and I start wandering off into the woods listening to Debesh Suvat. Where's my husband? I don't know. All right, man. I kid. I have fun, but oh man, I've had a blast chit chatting with you for sure. Is anybody helping you with this? Do you have any shout outs to give to some people that have helped you along the way? You say somebody helped you put together, helped you learn how to refine the FL Studio and put together your gear.
Yeah, there's like I said, Kev Willow. He was very helpful for me in learning some sort of unique little tricks in FL Studio, and learning different aspects of different genres and stuff like that. And just a nice guy, good soul. Check him out. Good music. But also, of course, on Twitter at Sayonara Yuki. She's the wonderful person who also goes by X Techno, who helped create the music video for my song Oak, which you can find on YouTube. And of course, the great folks of Valdo in Scotland. So we got Kyle Meldrum, Nunny B, and some others as well. It's there's so many people that are willing to work together and willing to collaborate just in good faith, and it's an amazing thing. And there's going to be some interesting projects coming from this collaborative effort. Debesh. You can check out the first song, Tim Baster Rap, on the Patreon there. But yeah, definitely check out their works. Yeah. And that about sums it up.
Well, all right, Debesh Suvat, let's wind this thing down, park this thing in the garage. I don't want this to be the last time we talk. As time progresses and you have more projects that are in the works, I want you to come back on, pop in, and give the people an idea of where you're at. This is where you're at this moment in time. And where you're going to be maybe another 6 months or a year down the road might be in a whole different place. I'd like to explore that. I'd like to find out more about Debesh Suvat. You're an interesting fella, man. You've cultivated a look. You have ideas that may not be mainstream, but that I think the world is all the better for that because, there's too many automatons. You want to get outside that, yeah, get outside, go out and play. I have people that try to paint me in a box. Oh, you're a liberal. Oh, you're conservative. Oh, I'm just me. I try to do me.
You're you.
Right. And you are you. And the world is better for that. All right, my man. Well, I usually finish these things off with last words of the people. These could be words to live by, words that you heard a long time ago. Maybe somebody told you something, maybe a mantra you wake up with every day, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Debesh Suvat, last words for the people. And after you're done, I will put, after we get off of this, I will put that song on at the end. So last words for the people.
All right. Incarcerate every paradigm, cover in the calcined ash, enthusiastically have an orgy thereof. The only way to enter the garden is nude or stumbling, both of which make the garden laugh. Imprinted on clouds, new game given by the sky, dreams of blowing thick black swirls of chaotic intent, a shaman's parlor trick. It's not what I show you now. It's how the rhizome takes flight within and through you all. I want to dissolve walls. My will is a caustic agent, devouring rule, law, governance, denouncing disintegrated compartmentalization, averring concatenate flow of mutual causality. One day, people will know the math of my music, the meaning of my musings. The universe isn't good at keeping secrets. The magpie likes my shiny thoughts. Having given salutations, magpie blesses my path and advises me. Playful jokesters as they are, they delight in my learning as much as my confusion. I am the ghost of Edmonton. This is That She Never Saw Him Walk from the upcoming album, actually just recently released album, Consumed.
Well, there you have it, party people. Debesh Suvat. What an interesting fellow. He blew my mind at times, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Yeah, and that song, what an explosion of sounds. What an explosion of sounds. This is stuff to chaotic. Yeah, I would describe it as that. And just amazing. Amazing how you throw. It's kind of like, I didn't say this in the podcast, but it's kind of like jazz, where you throw all these instruments together and somehow at the end it comes out just right. This is how jazz musicians used to. You play what you want, you play what you want, you play what you want, you play, and then the rhythm section just kind of puts it all together. And he said it's mathematical. I agree. Between math and music, I think we could speak to all people in the universe. Yeah, expand your mind with little Debesh Suvat. Excellent. Thank you so much for being on the program, What Makes You Famous. Now, if you, yes, you, my loyal listener, would like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, radiowhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.